Survivor is back, baby. That's right, season 49 just premiered, and so I've made my triumphant return to analyze the edit of just the first episode of the season in order to predict who I think is going to win the entire thing. I'm going to look for little clues, little tidbits in the edit of the episode to predict how I think the entire rest of the season is going to go. Now, real quick, apparently there are spoilers out there for this season. I do not know the spoilers. I do not want to know the spoilers. If you know the spoilers, don't tell me. Don't put anything in the comments below. Don't even say things like, oh, your predictions seem pretty in line with what the spoilers are. That's giving me info I don't want to know. It just makes it less fun to make these videos. It makes it less fun for you to watch me make these videos. It just kind of ruins things in general for everybody. I'm gonna have to try to refrain from looking at other people's Edgic charts too much this season, which is a bummer. But I'm trying to remain as unspoiled as possible. Now, I do know what contestants are on Survivor 50 from this season. I think a lot of people do. I'm going to try to refrain from mentioning it too explicitly without any sort of warning beforehand, hopefully. But just know that that may be something that will color my opinions and predictions as we go along. Now, if you don't know how Edgic works, basically Edgic is a system that has been used for many years by the Survivor community to analyze the edit of every single episode of a season of Survivor and to give every person in the season a specific Edgic rating for each episode, which can kind of clue us into how that person is being edited, which might let us predict how we think their storyline might go as it goes along and how far they might go in the season. Is their story done yet? Do they have more to tell? Are they being painted positively, negatively? All these sorts of things. What we have right here is an Edgic chart, which allows us to give every single contestant a specific rating for the episode. We're going to do it just for episode 1 today because this is coming out right after the premiere. And basically, an Edgic rating, there are 3 different parts to a rating that a person can get. The first part is the type of edit. There are 4 different types of edit a person can get, generally speaking. There is UTR, which stands for under the radar, which means you didn't see very much of that person in the episode. There is MOR, which stands for middle of the road, which means you saw a decent amount of that person, but they weren't like fleshed out as a character all that much. They can be CP, which stands for complex personality, which means you saw a good amount of them and they were pretty fleshed out as a character. Or they can be OTT, which stands for over the top, which means you saw way too much to them proportionally to what was necessary based on the episode. The second part of an Edgic rating is the tone. We can add in to the end of the rating a P for a positive leaning tone, an N for a negative leaning tone, an M for a mixed tone, which means there's a little bit of positive and a little bit of negative, or they can just be no extra letter at all for no tone, neutral tone. There wasn't really anything that was guiding us one way or the other. And finally, the last part of an Edgic rating is the number at the end of the rating, which is basically just a visibility scale from 1 to 5 on how much we saw that person in the episode. 1 for we barely saw them at all, 5 for we saw a lot of them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as the type of edit. You know, maybe we didn't see very much of them like actually on screen, but what we did see was very fleshed out. Or maybe we did see a lot of them, but we didn't really get a lot of sense on their gameplay or who they are. So that's why all the different things are combined together to create an Edgic rating. And so we will start out today talking about our voted off castaway, and then we will go to the top of the list and go down through each person. And then once we are done with that, we will do a contender ranking all of the people remaining in the game on how much I think they are likely to win this season based on the way they were edited just in the premiere. So of course, we have to first start off talking about our first boot of the season, Nicole. I am very sad to see Nicole go. I think Nicole was very fun in this episode. There's a few very iconic moments in this episode. We had like the spitting in the face with Jeremiah when he had the mud in his eyes. We had like the puking into the hand. there were some very fun moments here with Nicole. I think that generally my opinion on the premiere was it was okay. I felt like we didn't get a ton of craziness going on. I think Nicole delivered a few fun moments, but other than that, it was a pretty I wouldn't say it was like predictable boot. I didn't think Nicole would be the first boot. She was not like on my prediction list, for first boot really at all. But based on the way the episode was going, it wasn't that surprising. It was clear it was going to be Annie and Nicole pretty early in the episode, I think. And that's just kind of the way it ended up. So as for giving Nicole a rating, I think we got a pretty good sense of Nicole. I don't think we saw a ton of her, but I think we saw just enough. I might give her... I think I'd give her a complex personality. I'm trying to think if there was any specific tone to it. I mean, maybe. I think we could maybe go with a mixed tone, because I definitely think that there were like stuff people kind of talking about, like, she's not that useful to the tribe. She's not good at challenges, stuff like that. But then also, people saying they did like her, they found it kind of funny and whatnot. So I think we're going to go with a complex personality mixed tones. That would be a CPM. And then we add in a number at the end for visibility. I don't think it was like a ton of visibility, but I think it was enough. I probably would give it a 3. I think a complex personality mixed 3 is probably pretty accurate. You could maybe go over the top because of some of the funny moments, but I didn't really think it was that over the top. The visibility was not that high. I think that seems pretty accurate. Sad to see Nicole go. I think she was really fun. I hope that she continues to engage in the community moving forward. I think that was a fun person to be the first boot of the season, unfortunately. And then we will hop up to the top of the list and go all the way down. Now, I have thought about my ratings a lot, but I haven't actually given specific ideas to how I would rate these people. I want to have very raw thoughts going to the premiere on camera. You should really just see me think out how I want to rate these people. I have a lot of contender ideas, but not a lot of Edgic ideas, so this will be interesting. As for Alex in this episode, I think that Alex... I honestly kind of think I might give him a pretty similar rating to Nicole. I feel like we got a pretty clear sense of him. I think we learned a lot about him. We got a good intro sequence. We saw him in a lot of different scenes, a lot of strategy from him. We learned about kind of his place in the tribe. We learned about him going on the journey. He was pretty involved. I think we were pretty high on the visibility for Alex. We got a pretty good sense of Alex. I don't think it was over the top. I do think there was potentially some mixed tone. I think there was people that were looking good about him. They wanted to work with him. We got a lot of positive tone for Alex from Jake, but I feel like we got a little bit of negative tone. He was maybe painted as a little bit smug in the journey with Rizo, and it was a little bit of I don't know if we want Alex in the 4. There's people worried about the bromance. So I think I probably would give Alex also a complex personality mix. I think I would bump up his visibility, though. Maybe give him a 4. Honestly, you could even give him a 5. It felt like we got quite a bit of Alex in the premiere, but it didn't feel excessive. I think 5 is usually reserved for really, it felt like an excessive amount of screen time. You could maybe go 5 on it. I'm going to go 4 for now, but I could see myself bumping it up potentially. And so then we'll move on to the next person. Annie is the next on the list. I felt like we did not get a lot of Annie here. I'm tempted to maybe give her a middle of the road just because we did get a little bit. We learned a little bit about who she is. We learned that she's the front person of a band, and we saw a little bit of her strategy, but I felt like it was pretty low. Honestly, I would go middle of the road. I'm thinking either mixed or negative. I mean, there's maybe some mixed tone. I know people talked about liking her, but I felt like generally it was pretty negative. There's a lot of like negative talk about her, setting her up as like a potential boot. I mean, I feel like there was some positive, but I felt like the negative outweighs the positive here to a point that I think I would just give it a negative rating, but I could understand a mixed rating. I do think there was definitely some tone to it, for sure. I'm thinking a middle of the road -2. That's my opinion on it. We did not see a lot of her. You could even maybe go under the radar negative, which I feel like is a very rare rating to get. I don't know if I've ever given one of those out before. But I think middle of the road negative is probably appropriate because I do think that we saw a lot of people talking about her at least, which is at least something. So that's where I'm landing on Annie. Jake. Now, Jake, I think we're going to give our first over the top to. I don't know if it was, honestly, I don't think there really was tone. I think we might just go with a flat out, oops, I messed it up. A flat out OTT here because I feel like we got a lot of Jake. We saw so much of him talking about his life, talking about the bromance, talking about his alliance, talking about being a shoe bandit, talking about who he thinks should get voted out and all that jazz. I felt like Jake was very much in the episode. I don't think there was there was like a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative. I don't think really anything that stood out to me too much. There wasn't any like specific scenes that like really popped to me for tone wise, I think, for Jake. So I think we're looking at a flat out OTT here. I'm tempted to go with a 5. I felt like Jake got the most screen time to me in the premiere. I felt like we saw so much of Jake. You could maybe go with a 4 on it. You could maybe go with a 5. I think I'm going with the OTT 5, honestly. That's maybe too extreme. We realistically probably actually saw more of other people, but it just felt like Jake was really so ever present in this episode to me. And it's definitely OTT. Maybe it's an OTT 4, but I'm going to go with an OTT 5. Moving over, finally hopping off of the Kelly tribe over to Hina, Jason. I feel like we didn't get a ton of Jason. He got a good Nat chat, but then after that, there was really not much. There was a little bit of him like kind of talking about playing Smash Brothers, Project M, and whatnot. But other than that, I don't think there was a ton here. I don't think I would go complex on it. I'm thinking either middle of the road or maybe like I could see an argument for like an over the top rating that's like low over the top. Like a low visibility, like an OTT 2 maybe, if you really wanted to go hot wild with it. But I'm thinking I'm going middle of the road. I'm thinking maybe a positive rating on Jason. You know, I felt like people seem to like him. I think that you could maybe go flat on middle of the road, but like it's fun to throw tone in there. I'm feeling like a toneful day. I'm feeling like a middle of the road positive too. I think on Jason. You could maybe even give it a 3, maybe, but I felt like I don't even remember any confessionals from Jason, actually. I really only remember the Matt chat and when he was talking about Project M. I think he had one confessional where he like talks about Steven, and that was pretty much it. So, yeah, I think a middle of the road positive 2 is appropriate to me. That's what we're going to go with. Jawan. Oof, Jawan. Interesting episode for Jawan. I feel like it started off pretty good and then really went downhill. I mean, you got the big like voiceover sequence that opened the entire season, but then you got that real negative scene where Savannah was like kind of talking about him very negatively while building the fire, overly so. I don't know if I would go. Oh, maybe I would go OTT on it. I feel like we could I could see an argument for like an OTT mixed 3, maybe. Either that or maybe a complex 3. I don't think I would go middle of the road on it. I want to go OTT because I felt like that negative scene was so kind of over the top in a way that was like kind of unnecessary. I don't know why that was set up other than that's going to be a storyline that's going to be important in the near or distant future. But in terms of like this episode, it really was unnecessary. You also got that big intro sequence. I feel like an OTT mix 3 is appropriate here. I feel like, yeah, he had some over the top scenes. I don't think he was like super in it, but it's maybe a little bit crazy. You could go complex mixed on it, but that's what I'm feeling right now. Jeremiah, I think Jeremiah had a pretty good episode. I think we got a pretty clear sense of him. We saw a lot about his strategy, who he was vibing with, how he wanted to work with different people on his tribe. I'm feeling like a complex personality here. I don't know if I would go tone on it. If there is tone, it's positive. Maybe just because he's laughing so much. But I don't think there was tone. I'm thinking we're looking at a flat, complex personality 4. I think on Jeremiah. Well, a lot about him figuring out what he wants to do with the tribe. Kristina, heading back over to Hina. I might even go with an OTT on Kristina. I don't know if it was positive or negative. I'm kind of surprised with how many OTTs I'm given. I kind of feel like an OTT like 2. Oops. How'd that happen? OTT 2. Maybe that's crazy. Is that crazy? That's just kind of how I'm feeling on it. Because I felt like that bird scene was so kind of over the top. But she really didn't get a lot of content in the episode. I don't know if I would give any tone necessarily. It's either OTT or middle of the road. I don't think it was the middle of the road. So I think OTT 2. That's how I'm feeling. Matt had a decent episode. We didn't get a lot of him earlier in the episode, but I felt like we got a very clear sense of him much later in the episode. I'm thinking giving Matt like a complex. I think this might be a complex personality positive, honestly, because it felt like he was shown to be like kind of the most capable person on his tribe, really. But I don't think it was a ton of content. I'm thinking either a 2 or a 3. A complex personality, positive 3, maybe, on Matt. That's where I'm going right now. MC. Ooh, not a lot of MC. I think we're going to give our first under the radar rating here. I mean, I don't think there's any tone. Maybe positive based on her performance in the challenge, but not really. I think this is just a flat under the radar 1, honestly. I don't think we saw her at all outside of the challenge. She got like 1 2-second confessional, and then she had like a tiny little chat with Steven, and that was like it. So there really was not much here for MC. Yeah, I'm thinking under the radar 1 here. Nate. We got pretty good stuff from Nate. I felt like we kind of learned about him, how he's kind of hiding his profession from the other castaways. We got him talk about kind of his strategy, how he's like older than the other people. He's got to slip in there. He talked about his rad dad socks. I feel like this was pretty good. I don't think there was tone on it. I think we're looking at like a complex personality 3. Just straight up. I don't think there's a ton of Nate in here, but good stuff, what we did get, I think. Rizo. This is an over the top if I've ever seen it. You could maybe give a mixed over the top, but I'm thinking an over the top positive 4 on Rizo. I think I felt like that scene of him doing the challenge was so like you're really trying to root for him. He's such an underdog. You're like, come on, Rizo, you can pull it off, and then he pulls it off, and it's like a big celebration. So that's where I'm feeling on Rizo. I feel like this was a very over the top premiere for him. I've given a lot of over-the-top ratings in this episode, which is kind of unusual. But it's just where my heart's at right now. What can I say? Sage. I'm thinking a middle of the road on Sage. Honestly, maybe a middle of the road mixed tone. Because I felt like there was like people were like kind of like, oh, we like that she speaks her mind. That's kind of cool, but also that's kind of a problem. Yeah, I'm thinking a middle of the road mixed to maybe a 3. You could argue it's a 3 on a middle of the road rating, but I think it's a 2. My opinion on that for Sage. Savannah, I'm definitely giving Savannah complex personality. I don't think there was really tone. I felt like it was pretty flat. I'm thinking a 4. I felt like Savannah had pretty good stuff from the non-losing tribe. You know, I feel like she really felt like kind of the epicenter of what was going on in her tribe. I don't think she got like the most confessionals, but she felt very present in like every scene that we saw of Uli. She felt like a very present person, kind of laying out where all the people were in the tribe. She was involved in like pretty much all of like the different alliances that were forming. The original like 3 with Jawan and Shannon, and then like a later 4 that was forming with Nate. It felt like she was always kind of there and figuring out the strategy of things. So I think a complex personality 4 on Savannah. Shannon, I'm thinking a complex personality mixed, maybe a 3. You could even argue it's a 4. I don't want to give too many like high visibility ratings. I feel like she was very involved in the episode, but like I don't think we saw like a ton of her, but it felt like she was definitely a big presence on her tribe. I give it a mixed tone because I think there was like positive stuff. People were vibing with her, but it was a little bit like we saw a little bit of Savannah being like, I'm not into this stuff that she's doing here. So I never feel like Shannon had a very toneful edit. Maybe I don't even know. I don't know specifically positive or negative. So I feel like it's got to be mixed. I feel like it felt toneful. It has got to be something. I think a complex person at mixed 3 on Shannon. Sophie with an I. Oh, I guess they both have eyes. Sophie with Sophie B. I think that this was a pretty good episode for Sophie. We got a good sense of her. I would probably give it a complex on Sophie. I don't know if there was tone to Sophie. I don't think so. I think the edit was pretty straightforward for Sophie, but it was pretty good. I probably would give her a complex personality 4 on it. I felt like she had really good strategy. I think pretty similar to Jeremiah. Really good strategy on her tribe. You got a really clear sense of what she's wanting to do, kind of where she stands. Maybe not anything too painted one way or another, like you're rooting for her or not. Yeah, I think that's where we're at. Sophie with an E, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give another under the radar rating to, I think another under the radar 1, honestly. I felt like we saw maybe more of her than MC. We saw MC in the challenge, but Sophie had slightly more confessional time, but like not much. So you can maybe put a 2, but I think that's probably where we're at. I just gotta say, actually, I'll save it for the Contender Rankings. And finally, the last person we have to do a rating for is Steven. Steven had an interesting episode. I'm wondering if I should give him an OTT, but I've already given so many OTTs this episode. I don't think I want to. I think I want to give him a complex personality mixed 3. I've given out a few of those. I feel like we saw a good amount of him, especially out of the people on his tribe, but there was like kind of conflicting kind of opinions on him, I guess. He kind of crashed out a little bit at the end of the episode, but he was also shown to be kind of like the social dynamo of his tribe in a way, making all the alliances. People were liking him. So I feel like it's definitely a mixed tone. I can maybe go OTT on it, but I don't want to, I think. I'm trying to balance out the charts. I feel like I've given too many high valued ratings here. So I'm trying to keep it semi-balanced. But for a premiere, you're bound to see everybody quite a bit. So that it kind of makes sense. But that's where I stand on it. Those are my Edgic ratings for the premiere. So now we can hop on over to the Contender Rankings. I have all of the people still in the game here, and I will rank them from 17 all the way up to number 1 on who I think is most likely to win this season. I think I'm going to put maybe a controversial choice in last place. I'm going to put Annie in last place at 17. I feel like this was like not a good episode for Annie, especially being on the tribe that was going to council. I felt like we didn't see very much of her. Like we learned like the bare minimum about her, I feel like. And a lot of the content she did get was very negative. I feel like they get like a middle of the road negative rating in the premiere is like not a good sign for your longevity. That's kind of like, it's kind of giving like Charity from 48 kind of vibes to me. I don't think Annie is long for this game, and if she is, I don't think that she is winning. Honestly, I feel like this episode was setting Annie up to be the second boot, really, or at least go pre-merge. Yeah, I don't really see a path for Annie Edgicly right now. It certainly can bounce back. I don't think it's impossible, but it seemed like the next time on Survivor was very negative on Annie as well, which I think is not so good for her. So I think I gotta go with putting her in last place. Then I'm gonna put we're gonna talk about 2 for 1. I'm gonna put MC second last. I'm gonna put Sophie third last. Guys, what happened? I don't know who watched my draft video, okay? For my draft, I drafted 3 players. Freaking Sophie and MC is my team. I rode so hard for them. I was so excited. I was like, these two are going to be like this dynamic duo in this season. They're going to be running things. And here I am putting them at the bottom of the list. Maybe that's also, I'm a little bit biased. I don't want to put them last, so I had to find someone to put below them. But I'm just like, this edit was so bad for them. We barely saw them at all. It was just really a travesty. I don't really think either of them have really any shot of winning. The reason why I put them above Annie is I think to get such low content on like the tribe that wins and isn't that important is not that bad versus the tribe that lost, the blue tribe that Annie was on, and we still saw so little of her. I think that holds more weight to me. Like we should have been able to see more of her, and we didn't compared to the yellow tribe. I'll have more thoughts on the yellow tribe as we go along, but yeah, I'm so bummed. I felt like I rode so hard. I went into Survivor 48 riding so hard. I'm like, there's this dynamic duo, Joe and Eva. They're gonna crush this season, and I was freaking right. I nailed that, and I felt so good right off the bat. Episode 1, I'm like, wow, I nailed that prediction. And this season, I was way off. I was like, all right, Sophie and MC, that's the duo of the season. And no, unfortunately, not a lot of content. No, they could still go very far. We don't know. We didn't get a lot of Yellow Tribe in this episode, but not great edits right now on Sophie and MC. Now, next on the list, it starts to get a little bit difficult. I'm thinking I'm gonna go. I'll say this. I'll say this now. I've seen some other people say this, and I was thinking this too. I think, honestly, I feel like Yellow Tribe is like all eliminated. Hina, was it? We saw so little of them. They felt so unimportant to this premiere. If we're talking complex tribe theory, which has been a theory for many years in Survivor Edgic, where like certain tribes are edited more complexly, you get a better sense of their standings amongst each other and whatnot, and you just generally get more screen time versus another tribe where they, not as complex. Usually more complex tribe. The more complex a tribe is, the more likely the winner is to be produced from that season. Now, I think that is kind of the case here. I think if we look at, again, I'll compare it to 48, where the tribe that lost the first episode, I was like, out on. I was like, we're barely seeing them at all compared to the other two tribes that won. But this season, no. The season that lost the first episode, I felt like got a lot of screen time. Maybe the most complex, it's arguable, with the red tribe. But yellow was so far below the other tribes. I feel like they're all like pretty much eliminated right off the bat. Honestly, I think I'm going to go Jason next. He got a good Matt chat, but other than that, it felt like he just was like not really a part of things. He just didn't get much of a narrative here. Like maybe that Matt chat could lead to something, but I didn't get great vibes there from the Jason edit. I think there wasn't like negativity really, but I don't know. The yellow tribe in general was so bad. I feel like they all got to go pretty low, honestly. I think I'm gonna hop to the red tribe for a little bit. I think I'm gonna go Sage next. I didn't love this premiere from Sage. I think it's fine. I think I can see the winning path potentially, but it felt like she didn't get like a ton of screen time. It was kind of more just her being like an oddball character. We saw her talk a little bit of strategy, like being like, "Oh, Rizo, why is he?" He's going to have a tough time ingratiating himself because he's late. He's missing out on these important social moments, which, if anything, I feel like is somehow going to turn back on her. I feel like that was like a negative opinion for her because I don't really think that is going to hurt Rizo based on the edit. He got a lot of screen time, and he kind of ended up in some sort of 4 by the end of the episode that Sage hasn't really been in any of the alliance dynamics that we've seen so far. So, yeah. I think pretty low on Sage right now. Then it's kind of arguable. I'm thinking the next two. I know who they are. I think I'm gonna go Steven next. Steven is maybe giving a little bit like say in the sense that he's the character we see the most of from the tribe we barely see at all. And he's like kind of a crash out, I guess. I think like it started off pretty good for him. We saw a lot about his backstory, a lot about him kind of ingratiating himself and the dynamics of things. But then like he had this total crash out at the end of this episode where he got all nervous and about like fitting in, and he didn't think that anyone actually liked him and all that. It was giving a little bit like Baby Andy to me in Survivor 47, which Andy recovered and he went very far. My prediction with Steven here is either he's going to be someone that gets that kind of like journey arc over the course of the season, and he kind of comes into his own. But I don't think he wins based on that type of story. Or I think that ending was kind of painting him up to be a boot that pretty soon. I think maybe the Yellow Tribe wasn't shown that much because there just wasn't that much going on. To be fair to the Yellow Tribe, it doesn't seem like anything was going on in that tribe. There wasn't that much to show, okay? With Sophie with an I, or with a E, there was a scene that she, like, a deleted scene of her, like, talking about the tribe dynamics. They're just kind of having fun, going swimming and whatnot. Honestly, it was a pretty bad scene. So, I mean, I would hope she would get some content in the premiere if she won. But that scene was, like, so bad. I'm like, honestly, I don't even mind them cutting that scene for her chances, really, because it was just so stupid. So clearly, if that was the deleted scene, there was nothing going on in that tribe, because they weren't cutting out anything interesting. It's not like they were making time for the other tribes here. So I can see a world where Yellow Tribe just sort of doesn't get that much content because there's nothing really going on there. But I think if that is the case, I kind of think Steven might be the first person voted out, because I think that maybe the Yellow Tribe will become important in the next couple episodes and we'll see more of everybody else. And the only person that was important to see right now was Steven, because we need to set up his storyline of getting voted out soon, because he's not going to go very far. Whereas the other people aren't as important to show that much because they're going to be in it for the long haul. It's possible. It's possible. But either way, I don't see high hopes really for Steven's chances moving forward. The next person I would put is Jawan. I feel like Jawan had a fairly similar premiere to Steven to me, in that like there was positivity. Felt like, you know, making connections on his tribe. You know, I feel like they both felt like they should have pretty good connections earlier on, and they kind of had a crash out later in the episode that maybe would have people looking at them a little bit more negatively. Maybe they could be someone that is going out much sooner than we expected them to, based on earlier in the episode. I think that those are very real possibilities here for both of them. I think Jawan I give a little bit of an edge to, just because I think he gets like that stuff from like the opening sequence with the voiceover. I think that's pretty good for him. I also think that the Red Tribe is just much more complex, which I think is good for him. I don't think being the crash out on the least complex tribe is as good as being the crash out on a more complex tribe. So that's why I'm giving him the slight edge there, but I feel very similar opinions on those two. And then I think we get into people that are much more potential contenders. I think I'm going to put Kristina at number 10. We didn't get like a ton of Kristina. I felt like, you know, we got a decent amount. You know, we saw a little bit of her. We saw her phobia of birds and whatnot. We saw her kind of talk about that she likes Steven, kind of relates to him a little bit. But again, we got so little strategy from the Yellow Tribe. There's just really not all that much to talk about. So I feel like that's a pretty safe bet there. And we're going to round out the Yellow Tribe at number 9 with Matt. So I'm shocked that Matt ended up being my highest rated person from the Yellow Tribe in the Contender Rankings. But honestly, I feel like Matt had the best premiere of the Yellow Tribe. He was introduced pretty late in the premiere, but I feel like we got a pretty good establishment of him as a character. I felt like we learned about him, you know, not understanding like the younger stuff. You know, we learned that he's the kind of an older guy. He's trying to figure out how to relate to the younger people. We learned that he's, you know, threw bags at the airport. We also saw him proving himself to be a very valuable asset to the tribe. I felt like people talked about him pretty positively, that he like would start the fire. He knew what he was doing more than anyone else. We also saw him, you know, kind of talking strategy in the tribe, making that alliance with Steven. I mean, Steven initiated it, but still, I felt that's pretty good. I felt like, you know, Steven got like negativity that Matt didn't get. I just think that Matt probably had the best edit in terms of a potential winner from the Yellow Tribe, which isn't saying that much, but yeah, I Matt all the way up to 9th place. Congrats. And then I feel like these are all pretty good contenders here. I'm a little bit conflicted on who should be next. I think I'm going to go Shannon. I felt like we did learn about Shannon. She did feel like she was important to the tribe, but it did feel a little bit like Shannon and Savannah were in the middle of the tribe, but that was kind of narrated from Savannah. Like Savannah was the one that's saying that like kind of me and Shannon were in a good position here. Whereas I feel like with Shannon, it was kind of like she just existed kind of and ended up in this spot. It didn't feel like she was like the narrator of any aspects of the tribe to me, if that makes sense, even though we learned about her as a character. So that's why I put her down at 8th place. I don't think I would put her too high, but I do think this was honestly a surprisingly good episode for Shannon. I feel like definitely in the contender possibilities right now. I think I'm going to put Rizo next at number 7. I feel like Rizo had like an over-the-top episode. He definitely got a lot of screen time. But honestly, it was really only during the battle for the tribe supplies that we saw so much of Rizo. Because after that moment, he kind of vanished. Like, he really wasn't in the rest of that episode that much. We didn't really learn anything about who he was aligned with, like where his position is at in the tribe. You know, we saw people talk about him a little bit. Like, Jawan kind of maybe wanted to work with him. He's kind of brought into the fore with Shannon, Savannah, and Nate. So, like, a little bit, but I feel like we got pretty low in terms of strategic content for Rizo here in the premiere, which bumps him down a little bit for me to 7th place. I feel like it was still pretty good. Again, a lot of content. I think he's set up to be a very big character in this season. No matter how far he goes, you know, he could end up like, I don't know, a Rome or a Say, or he could end up going much further. Who's to say right now? But I definitely think that, big character, but maybe not the front runner to win it based on the content so far. And then I'm going to put Nate at 6th. I felt like pretty good here from Nate. I felt like we got pretty good stuff. We learned about him. We saw him kind of strategically thinking, kind of recognizing, again, that kind of similar to Matt, that he's older than some of the other people in his tribe. He's got to learn how to fit in. We saw him kind of forming that alliance with Savannah, which that felt like an important scene to me. I'm really loving the idea of a Nate-Savannah dynamic alliance. I really liked that scene of them together. I felt like they were like some of the calmest, most like sensible, strategic minds that we saw in the episode. So I really hope that duo can last a while, because I really liked the vibes that were happening when Nate was proposing that scene to Savannah, or proposing that alliance in that scene with Savannah. And yeah, honestly, I feel like this was a pretty good episode for Nate. I'd put him pretty high. Not like a ton, but we did see the rad dad socks, which were kind of unnecessary, right? That was just kind of a quirky little thing. Like, could that be like a D's toe moment, or Kyle's wart moment? You know, like, you know, he's got dad socks, rad dad. It's possible. You know, it's kind of just a quirky little thing. So I feel like a pretty good episode for Nate. Not stellar, but solid. And if you haven't noticed by now, we're in the top 5, and I still have 4 people from the Blue Tribe. I have the Blue Tribe 4 here. I don't know if they have an alliance name yet. The Kelly 4, I guess. I just felt like we saw so much of them in the premiere. Now, I'm not like confident that they're like this super complex tribe, that one of them is definitely going to win based on the edit of the premiere. Because I think that was just kind of how the premiere went. I feel like we still got pretty good stuff from the Red Tribe. I could see things getting mixed up as it goes along. But because they went to tribal, I just felt like we got so much of them and so much of their story so far. You know, like last year, honestly, I was super confident that Lagi was the complex tribe in 48. And I mean, I still think they were, but they didn't, they didn't pull it out. And so, I mean, maybe this could be the most complex tribe, but isn't necessarily the tribe with the winner on it. I think that's certainly possible, but I just feel like we got so much of them. This felt like a tale of like Blue Tribe, Red Tribe, Yellow Tribe. That's basically roughly how my rankings are going, and that felt like pretty a clear distinction to me in this premiere. And so in 5th place, I think I'm going to put Jeremiah down at 5. I feel like Jeremiah had a good premiere. We learned about him. We saw pretty good strategic sensing from him. I don't think there's anything that like super stood out to me though, which is why I think I put him at 5. Just kind of felt like pretty in sync with the tribe, I guess. It's just kind of where my gut's going right now is to put him at 5, but I think that Jeremiah is a pretty serious contender based on this premiere. I think I'm going to put Alex at 4. Good premiere for Alex. We saw a lot of him. We saw a lot of his, again, kind of different stuff. Now, the reason why I'm a little bit worried about Alex is that I feel like he was a little bit, again, kind of like arrogant maybe in the Rizo dynamic. There was kind of some negativity there. I felt like you were clearly rooting for Rizo to beat him based on the way the edit was going. And, you know, there was a little bit of like worry about that bromance. I could see him ending up being someone that like, you're kind of surprised that he gets voted out like 3rd maybe. I think that's definitely possible based on the edit so far. But I do think that it's setting him up as someone that could go the distance in the season. He even got talked to a little bit by Jeff on the mat before the immunity challenge. He got the very first like intro, big flashback sequence of the season. Things are looking good for Alex right now, but I do worry a little bit about the tone. I'm going to put Jake at number 3. Big over-the-top episode for Jake. We got a lot of him. Listen, he might just be a big character, again, kind of like Rizo, but I still feel like we got a lot more like strategic sensing from him. He was making a lot of alliances on the tribe. He was such a force on like what was going on in the strategy of the episode, with the bromance, with the alliance with Sophie, with the Canadian alliance with Jeremiah, with the, you know, we saw the shoe bandit stuff. That's also maybe like a little quirky moment that could be good for him. I think this is like, you know, objectively seems pretty high, but I don't think he like seems like he is as strategic as some of the other people below him, but I just feel like it was such a big premiere for him. I feel like he has to be kind of in a top 5 spot. I can definitely see him moving down a few episodes in, but based on the premiere, that's what my gut's telling me right now. Now he also got a big intro sequence at the beginning as well, which I think is pretty good for him. And between Sophie and Savannah, I think it's pretty interesting because I think Savannah got like that opening sequence about being a reporter, which I think is pretty good for her. That kind of gives her a leg up for me. But I think Sophie, I just really liked the kind of strategic stuff going on from Sophie. I just felt like she was like the best on her tribe. We saw her kind of making connections with each and every person. We did see that she maybe wanted to save Nicole, and that didn't work, which isn't great for her. But I think I'm going to put Savannah at number 2 and Sophie at number 1. I think with Savannah, I just feel like the Red Tribe was a little bit more complex, less complex. I just feel like Blue Tribe should be number 1 spot here, but I feel like Savannah is a big person to look out for on the Red Tribe. We got a lot of strategic stuff. Again, like she felt like these two kind of felt like the strategic centers of their respective tribes. Maybe not the hearts of the tribes, but like the strategic centers. And then with Sophie, again, I worry about like her wanting to save Nicole, if that was kind of potentially a worrisome dynamic that she didn't do that. But honestly, it just felt like to me that's trying to create tension for so you don't know who goes voted out. It didn't feel like there was like a ton of blame placed on Sophie, and if anything, it just kind of showed her being more positive and like kind, I guess, to the first boot, which I feel like is a good thing. So yeah, that's where my heart's going right now. Savannah at 2, Sophie number 1, but I can definitely see that changing as we go along. I definitely think Jake will probably drop lower. I can see Jeremiah maybe moving up. Nate and Rizo are definitely people I'm on the lookout for that could move up or down. Maybe even Shannon could move up. I also think she could definitely move down a lot. But yeah, I feel pretty good in that top 5 based on the premiere. Now, things could obviously definitely change as we go along, but that's just kind of where I am right now. Again, I'm not mentioning who is on 50. If you know, you understand. If you don't, I'm not going to talk about it. But this is where I'm at right now. So we're going to copy that over to the Edgic. We can put it down here. Top 5 Contenders. And that is our chart for the premiere of the season. Every Edgic rating for everybody in the premiere and our top 5 contenders. I'm very interested to see where things go from here. I feel like this premiere was maybe a little bit, I don't know if snoozier is the right word. It wasn't. I feel like the people were very hyper, very like crazy people kind of out there, but maybe not like the most like insane dynamics going on any of the tribes yet. I felt like there maybe wasn't that much to show in a 2-hour premiere. So I'm hoping things kind of ramp up. I feel like Jeff said this in an interview that he thinks that it starts off a little slow, but it gets really, really unpredictable and crazy as it goes along this season. I feel like I saw him say that. Maybe I'm mistaken, but that seems to be accurate based on what we have so far. So yeah, that's it. I mean, in terms of my predictions moving forward, yeah, I mean, it's tough to say which tribe is going to lose. I feel like Yellow Tribe seems really strong. I don't really think they're going to lose. I don't think they're going to lose next. If Yellow Tribe does lose, based on the edit so far, we really only have a setup for Steven being the first boot from that tribe. I don't think it'll be Matt based on the edit so far. It could kind of be anyone else. I don't really think it would be Jason based on the edit as the first boot. But maybe I felt like we got so little of MC and Sophie. It's tough to say. It definitely could be them. It could be Kristina based on her being like afraid of things and whatnot. But I don't think so. She got pretty good content. Yeah, so it's tough to say. If Yellow Tribe does lose next time, I guess I would say Steven, but I think we need a little bit more time. I think Yellow Tribe is not going to lose next. I think we're going to get at least one more episode of Yellow Tribe winning. I mean, I don't think they will go the entire pre-merge without losing, but I do think we'll get at least one more episode to progress their story a little bit more. Red Tribe, it's possible they lose. If they do lose, I think Jawan is who we're set up to believe would be the first boot from that tribe. It could be Sage just because it feels like she's kind of outside the dynamics there, but I definitely think the story is there for Jawan boot. I think it would make a lot of sense for Jawan to be the second boot here if the Red Tribe loses based on the edit so far. I mean, he got a good amount of content, but yeah, it ended pretty badly for him in this episode. When I say badly, just like, people kind of talk about wanting to maybe vote him out. I still like the guy. It's not like he is like a bad dude based on the edit. It's just strategic positioning. So yeah, I think that Jawan could be the boot there. But I do think my best prediction, I think, is that Blue Tribe's going to lose again and they're going to vote out Annie. Now, then I don't know if they'll lose again after that. I'm not sure. Because that 4 is pretty strong. Now, I could see one of those 4. I mentioned I could see Alex going on pre-merge. I could see really any of them probably. I think Sophie's the safest on that tribe. But I could really see any of them potentially being like a shock pre-merge boot. Usually we have like at least someone that you're like, wow, they had so much content. I'm surprised they went out pre-merge. So I could see it being like an Alex or a Jeremiah, maybe a Jake. I feel like less likely a Jake, probably Alex or Jeremiah if I had to predict on that tribe. But I definitely think Annie's got to go before them. I think Annie's the next boot based on the way things are going. Could be wrong, but that's just the way I see things are at right now. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Excited to see the rest of the season. I don't have a whole lot of other predictions right now. There's a lot to talk about in this one video. So I'll develop more theories and predictions kind of as we go along. But if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. I'll be making these videos every week talking about the Edgic for every single episode of the season as we go along. So press the subscribe button so you can see more of me talk about that. I did Edgic for each week of Australia versus the World Survivor. Of Australian Survivor. So if you want to watch that, if you haven't yet, you can go back and watch those videos. I also did this for Survivor 48. So you can go and watch my videos for that if you're still interested. And I have a couple videos on predicting Survivor 50, so you can watch those as well. If you're itching for more content, waiting for the next week. You can also follow me on Twitter at Truest Northern, where I tweet about Big Brother. Sometimes that season's coming to an end, so maybe I'll tweet a little bit more about Survivor and whatnot moving forward. Maybe even The Amazing Race, if I feel like it, or some other show that's coming up. But yeah, that's basically all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you do have any opinions on my ratings, you can put them down below. Don't tell me about spoilers. Don't do it. Okay, don't post about spoilers in the comments below or anywhere. It's not fun. Don't post about spoilers for people that don't want to know about spoilers. But if you aren't spoiled and you want to just say your opinions on anything I said during the video, let me know in the comments below. I love engaging with the community and hearing what people have to say about my ratings. Put a lot of thought into these videos and these charts. And so I appreciate when people have thoughts on them. So put those down below and let me know how you think things are going. Appreciate it. I've been North. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Stay frosty, y'all.